Okay, so I need to have a serious conversation because based off of the video that I had posted this morning, there were a few comments about these Morgan and Peace dollars. Yeah, I'll consider this a little bit of a follow up, and I wanted to address a few of these comments by some of the viewing patrons. Okay, and it really revolves around really you have to buy the coin and not so much the slab. Okay, I am in total agreement. I think as someone who understands the hobby and has been in numismatics and even been on the dealer side, I completely concur with a few of the comments that come in and these folks. Um, but it really begs the question: at what level, price wise, is it fine to just buy the coin? Leave it at that. I want you guys to think about it. Would you say that at a coin that is $1,000, we'll just throw out a little bit of a dollar figure, a $1,000 coin, would you just say, I'd rather buy a raw coin, or I'd rather to just buy the coin? Because if the slab was not that important, then we wouldn't even think anything of it, right? It's like I'd rather just have the coin than the slab. But doesn't the third party graded slab validate the authenticity of the coin? Doesn't it validate the technical grade of the coin? In spite of what a few of you may or may not support regarding third party graders, they do have a place in this hobby and this in this industry. So much so that when you look at some of the biggest premier auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Great Collections, Stax Bowers, David Lawrence, they want their coins to be graded either by PCGS, NGC, Annex, whoever. Okay. Furthermore, there's also these third-party certification companies like CAC and MAC and PQ and all that stuff as kind of like an auditor of the graded slab. So yes, it's important, but at the same time, you're spending more money to get a secondary certification to make sure that PCGS and NGC are assigning what they feel like is true graded values for those coins. It's almost like we don't trust them, and that's why these other companies exist in the space of third-party coin grading. But getting back to the original question, yes, I am 100% okay with the premise of you got to buy the coin before you buy the holder. But where does that draw the line? Would you trust yourself to just buy a coin, not in a slab that say has a value of $5,000? Because I'm willing to bet today that a lot of the big high dollar coins, and it could be silver, it could be gold, it could be anything. A lot of these have been counterfeited. All right. And we lean and rely upon companies like PCGS and NGC to, at the very least, make a differentiation between an authentic coin and one that is clearly a fake, right? Let's say they're not any good at the overall technical grade aspect of it. They say the sky is blue, you say the sky is purple. Now what I mean by that is like maybe they think the coin is a 63 and you think it's a 65. There's like two varying different opinions. What a lot of people don't understand when we submit coins and paper money, okay, to the graders, it's not just one person grading the coin. Those coins are then passed on to a secondary grader who audits the grades. They take a look at the coins and they make sure that they match up to what they feel like is a fair assessment of the coin's grade. Now, obviously, if there's some big discrepancy, Auditor B or A is going to meet up with chief grader of those coins and talk about it, okay? And they do that sort of thing. Um, so you gotta understand that the coins and currency that we send off to grading and that we spend a lot of money on, they pass through a couple of different hands. There's always a second opinion to all this, in addition to yours. So, what I'm trying to say is that you should not have to be scared of a third party grader. As a matter of fact, if you are indeed out in the market looking for some of the key dates and rarities that exist out there, like for instance a 1909 SVDB Lincoln Cent, would you be kind of boneheaded about buying the coin and saying, well, I'm really only in it to buy a raw example, but yet I expect the coin to be problem free, I expect it to be cheap, which, keep in mind, in today's market of collectibles, okay, and I'm using that big ass broad term, collectibles, so that's far beyond coins, currency, precious metals, but it also reaches out into the other different collectibles like sports cards, video games, antiques, art, things like that. You got to keep in mind that it doesn't matter where you're buying, what you're buying, for your own personal satisfaction, is that these items can all be graded, they can all be authenticated, and you kind of have to you have to give yourself the opportunity to save your investment when you go and spend $1,000, $500, $5,000, $50,000 on some coins. I have an upcoming collection that I will be taking a look at. I will be appraising, and I'll be doing some in-depth videos on this particular collection here really soon. I would say probably within the next month or so, but if things change, I'll let you know. And you would be surprised. I appraise probably a good maybe 10 collections a year. And they all range from very small stuff that isn't worth a whole lot of money, but I've also appraised collections that have values of over $100,000. I've done that. And you would be surprised. Some of the biggest collections with all of the neatest stuff, you're bound to find 1, 2, or 3 questionable items. Never fails. So, even with these collections that have extraordinary values to them, there is a lot of value that's involved with trying to be as transparent as possible to your clients, to the people that you're appraising the coins for, to make sure that these coins never enter the marketplace. However, there are a number of people that don't appraise their coins at all, that end up selling this to a coin dealer. And you hear guys like Daniel Malone, Coin Help You, and a few others talk about, I received counterfeit silver. I've received counterfeit brand new 2022 Silver Eagles. I've received counterfeit Morgans. And they do a lot of these videos. They're dealers. They buy all the time and they sell. But you hear this all the time, coming from people that bring in their collections that have been passed down to them, and they try and sell it. The real reason why third-party graders exist, okay, aside from assigning a technical grade, and by the way, as recently as about 15, 20 years ago, registry sets weren't really a thing. Okay, for those of you that don't know what that is, a registry set is simply compiling and trying to obtain the finest graded coins of every series. Let's say you're doing Lincoln Cent coins. You're going to try and seek out the highest grade of each coin. So I think that's where a lot of the backlash comes in when it comes to buy the coin, not the grade, okay? Oh, I don't believe that coin is full steps, or that one is a full head or full bands. Is that people have kind of like the itching, like depreciation of a coin that they don't own. There's a little bit of jealousy involved, all right? A Lincoln cent sells for $10,000. That's like a 1963. And people are ready to dogpile onto that particular subject and say that's horseshit. That coin is not a mint state 67 plus. It's not worth $10,000. But really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of jealousy involved because they wish it were them that owned and sold that coin. Because it's not any of our business to dictate how the money is being spent by the owners of these registry sets. And more times than not, people are doing this by sport. This is a sport to them. They have the deepest unimaginable pockets that you could ever imagine in the hobby. You got to keep in mind, yes, I keep saying it, coins has always been this rich hobby for many, many years, decades, centuries. But at the same time, there's this new emerging base of people that collect on the budget. But they also forget that there's this one whole other element of collectors and high-end investors and so on and so forth that have the $10, $50, $100,000 coins. And they all rely on third-party graders to ensure the overall value of those coins. There hasn't been a collection where I've said, no, do not grade this. I've come across a lot of coins that I have personally recommended to their owners that they absolutely must grade. Not so much for obtaining a numerical grade, but for obtaining the authenticity of the coin. Because once they decide to enter this into the marketplace, it's going to be a lot more believable to be able to go out and say, yeah, I have this 1889 CC Morgan dollar that I want to sell. Here it is. It's graded PCGS, mint state, blah, 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 blah. Okay, which, if you're that high a grade, it's a $10,000 plus coin all day long. That's the key Carson City of the entire series. But there's a number of them. I want to let everybody know that the differentiator between buying the coin and not the slab, and then undisputed, without question, you need to grade this coin. The difference is going to be the intent. Me personally, yeah, I will go out of my way to buy a reasonably priced 2021D Morgan dollar in a mint state 70, preferably first strike. And again, that's another thing that came up. I think first strike and first day of issue are bullshit. I'm like, in some aspects, it kind of is. But at the end of the day, when someone takes their time to bust their ass to get the coin packaged, to get it ready, and send it out the moment that it came in off the mail to get those designations, that's a lot of sweat equity that eventually should and is deserved to transform into real equity, cash equity. But you can't knock people for doing that. You can't knock the third-party graders for offering this up service. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's bogus. But when there's a market for it, and there are collectors, and there are investors, and there are just regular people that are interested in nothing but first strike and first day of issue, you ought to let them do what they want to do with their money. And not have to sit there and scream at them and tell them they're crazy and they shouldn't be doing that. Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If they were feeling really badly about their purchase of that first day of issue 2021D Morgan dollar, guess what they could do? They could take that little coin before it even comes out of the package in the mail. They could relist it on eBay. And guess what? Probably either make the same amount of money that they had spent on it or get more money. We're not going to the mall, guys, and buying a really nice purse or a fancy dress that we've spent hundreds of dollars on, that the moment you take it out, without a return policy, of course, these items depreciate in value. An automobile, which by the way is so expensive to own and buy today, the moment you drive it off the lot, it's worth a lot less than what you paid for it, even though the market is robust. With coins, it's different. There are collectibles in the space of this market that the moment you obtain it, it's automatically worth more. That's kind of like the beautiful part of all this, is that there is so much money. The hobby is so rich with equity that it's really easy to unload anything that you want to for any amount of money, because supply is short right now. But at the same time, people need the reassurances of their purchase. And if they want that puppy graded, you better let them get a graded coin and let them go about their day. Because the grade, the name brand, the PCGS and NGCs of the world is a guarantee that helps these investors and these collectors have a value of their items. And at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about, regardless of what you want to think. Yeah, I would say I'm a proponent of grading, and I will be. But I just don't send anything. Just send anything off to the graders. It has to make sense. And grading is an expense, obviously, and you have to treat it as part of your business. This is something you could write off at the end of the day as a professional service, but use it while it's there to protect your investments. That's why I wanted to talk about. Kind of a harsh way of ending off the month of March, but hey, it's all right. This is a pretty good argument. I'm glad it came up, and it's an argument that will never die. Buy the coin, not the grade. Makes a lot of sense until it's not your money that's being played around with. But that's going to go ahead and do it. You guys take care. See you guys in April. Have a good night.